What's happening? This is the Next Fix podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Penley, and today I got another delightful person on the better end of a recovery journey. This is Jimmy. Everybody, welcome Jimmy. Say what's up, man.
Hey, what's up, guys?
All right. So we're gonna jump into it because I could tell Jimmy's one of these high energy dudes, and he's ready to let this thing run. So so Jimmy, what we're gonna start off with, man, is just kind of a little bit of backstory, right? Why would you consider yourself, like, what lumps you into the category of an addict, man? And what's the story sound like,
All right, so I'm 44 years old. I was born in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I knew, like, at a young age, like, some traumatizing things happened to me. My mom and dad got divorced when I was like a year old, and my dad went and had a life with a whole nother family. Like, the lady he got married to had kids and so on and so forth. And so it was just me, my mom, and my brother. We grew up in a neighborhood where it was like all Latin kings, like Puerto Rican gangs. And my mom cooked like what you would call bathtub crank back in the day, like that high quality shit, and like enormous quantities. So our house always stunk, and it was just disgusting in there. But one time, my mom decided to let two of our neighbors babysit me, and they had their way with me. They sexually assaulted me, and I was hospitalized. And it was pretty traumatizing, like, at the time, right? Because, like, I couldn't fit in my own skin. The kids in the neighborhood told people at school. I got made fun of when I went to school, so then I got homeschooled. And when I got homeschooled, my mom was a fucking junkie whore, so she didn't teach me nothing, right? So, my dad, I think the worst thing I can think about my childhood was my dad would say, "I'm coming to get you," and I would pack my bags and he would never come to get me. That's what I remember the most of fucking me up. Like, waiting by that door, crying my eyes out, like, "Damn, Pop, why didn't you come and get me this time?" You know what I mean?
All right, hold on, Jimmy. Whoa, man! Like this, yeah. Like this is the first time I'm hearing this, man, and I mean, holy shit, man. Okay, all right. I had to just kind of pump the brakes there for a second, brother. That's all that was. So go ahead, man. Go
All
ahead.
right. So, like, you asked me how I could identify myself with an addict or an alcoholic. So, that happened to me when I was 9 years old, and like a few short months after that, I was actually at my dad's house visiting, and my stepbrother was a cocaine dealer, and it was his 17th birthday, and he gave me a line of cocaine. Now, I was 9 years old, and I remember when I did that line of cocaine, the release that I got from how good it made me feel, and I felt confident, and I was talkative, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this is great," like, so. And it wasn't just like, "Hey, man, I did a line and that was it." Like, I kept asking him for more and more. So then, like, my visitations with my dad were every other weekend. So whether my dad was there or not, I made sure my mom brought me there because I knew I could do cocaine. And then I would drink my dad's Jack Daniels Tennessee that was on top of the fridge when I felt like coming down and, going to sleep. So, did I identify myself as an addict at that young age? I didn't know what the fuck an addict was. You know what I mean?
Of course. I mean, you're at that age. What the hell do you know? You don't know
Right.
shit. That's the whole reason why we have to do better, like not letting people. But that's just a insane young age, man. Like that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I did every hard drug you could think of before I even hit puberty. I did nitrous, acid, ecstasy, crack, coke, weed, alcohol. I did all that before I hit puberty, before I even turned 13 years old. I did that with every drug, and it had a lot to do with who I hung out with in life. And when I got to high school, my friends were like the rich, preppy crowd. And I came from a demented neighborhood with a lot of drug access, so I was real popular and I was accepted into the group of people that I wanted to be. I wanted to be a rich kid that dressed nice, and they accepted me because I had something they wanted. And I was okay with that because they liked me and I was cool. I was Jimmy the drug dealer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, my childhood was pretty.
So that was so you had a ticket in there. So I mean, well, the trauma, man, is like fucking wild. And I'm no professional, but that's like That's a lot of layers, brother. And so, all right. So then, you hit high school, right? And so now you're up and running. You're a drug dealer, and like a lot of people, what people can't be familiar with is like, man, you had a really gnarly beginning. I think like, like real like some
Listen,
of the top 1% of the worst shit I've ever heard in my life. But so now you're in high school, like, and that's kind of like the backstory, or like the linchpin, and the start, right? So, all right, so let me ask you this. Uh, so when did it start turning for the worse? Like, like, sorry, because I'm imagining that you're in high school, you're probably loving life. You're Jimmy the drug dealer. Everybody knows you. Everybody wants you around, and things
yeah,
are probably like kind of
it
cool
was,
at the time, at the moment.
I had like I threw a couple raves at the Poconos and thousands of people showed up. My 18th birthday, we had 18 kegs. We passed out flyers to 3 surrounding county high schools. So many people showed up. Like, we had to rent the golf carts from the golf course just to get people from their cars to the party because that's how many people showed up.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
so we had some good times, man. I'm not even gonna lie. And you got to think I'm from Atlantic City, so we had the Taj Mahal, the Trump Plaza, we had the Bagada, we had Studio 56. So when all them nightclubs closes, we would go to the Transvestite Club at Studio 56, and we'd go party with the gay guys, and we'd have a blast because them motherfuckers know how to party. Like they
Well,
know how to party.
I've always said, man, I'm like, why did I always go to gay bars and gay clubs? They have the best drugs.
Absolutely,
Everybody knows
dude.
that.
And they're so fucking fun, dude. I remember it'd be like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be so eat out on ecstasy, and I'd walk out in the sun and be like, oh, fuck, I don't want to be outside.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Terrible.
So I don't know if how much you know about me, but I lived in Vegas for 11 years, man. And so when you're in one of these like epicenters of the party world, or like Vegas, Atlantic City, and then you have these hubs, man. And when you're like ground zero
Yeah,
of like all drugs, all parties, and if your will is set on having a good time, you know, uh, that's where you want to be if
all
that
the time.
lifestyle
Yeah,
is what you're
yeah.
in pursuit, right?
That's what I
So
care about.
you're in the perfect storm, right? You've got gnarly history. You're in a place to be when it comes to partying and taking it to the next level. So all right, so I'm imagining this story has a come to Jesus moment where something real tough happens. So I'm on the edge of my seat to see what this is, man.
All right, so the game changer for me and something that really affected me was like if you could sit yourself right in high school and you had your number 3 best friends, the 3 people that were the most important to you, that you said these are my ride or die homies. It was on senior cut day, and we were playing basketball, and we went to go pick up one of our friends, Bobby. It was me, Jim, and Joey, and then we picked up Bobby. And when we pulled out of Bobby's driveway, we got hit by a volunteer firefighter doing over 120 miles an hour in his Mustang, and it killed all 4 of them instantly. Now I got ejected out of the car and thrown in the grass, and they all died. I was the only one that lived, and 3 of my best friends and one of my close friends, but 3 of my best friends died. I can honestly say, besides like when I was a child and I did cocaine to escape how I felt because of what happened to me. And then at that point in time, like I would go to their graves and I would just do 8 ball after 8 ball of cocaine and just drink black velvet or, Irish whiskey rose or whatever you want to call it. And I would just sit there all night and all day and all night and all day and just mourn over their deaths. It was a terrible, terrible moment in my life. Um, but it didn't suck me in. You know what I mean? It didn't suck me in at all. There was a point where we had a big party and we were selling nitrous, and I beat up a guy because he tried to rob me, and when he was on the ground I kicked him in the face, and I found out that he was an off-duty state trooper. And
Oh,
yeah. So listen, dude, and in Jersey,
uh,
they call the state police Jersey's finest because they're dirty motherfuckers, dude. And I hope the wrong person don't listen to this and say, no, that's not true, because I was scared to death when these guys told me they were going to kill me. My girl at the time's sister's older brother was a state trooper, and he said, you tell your boy Jimmy, when we get a hold of him, we're going to kill him and bury him in the cornfields. So I left Jersey. I ran to West Palm Beach, Florida, where a whole nother animal was created. Like,
yeah, Yeah, I'm down in Florida, man. It's we, I sometimes I joke around about Florida. I'm like, oh yeah, it's America's glory hole, man.
Yeah.
It's like there's there's some dirty. You could get into some some stuff down here, man. So you come down to West Palm Beach, no doubt, right?
Yeah, I
And then
moved in with my
so
godmother.
okay,
Yeah. I started working at a substation and I met a stripper and we hit it off and I moved in with her and then three other strippers lived with her. So I was like the only dude living in a 4-bedroom house with four strippers. And you already know, dude, like I was living with strippers, dog. Like, come on, man. And these bitches
yeah,
weren't ugly. They were all hot. So they walked around in
yeah,
thongs and naked all the time, dude. It was the best.
right. So all right, so yeah, I mean at the time, you feel like you're on top of the world. I imagine you're still dealing drugs. I mean, because you're
Yeah,
not probably posted
yeah.
up in a house like that without dealing
Yeah, I
drugs. I
met a
mean,
guy that
that's
manufactured ecstasy. I was getting it like dirt cheap, and I was selling them. He like, yeah, I did really good when I was there, man. Like really good. Drug
yeah,
selling
yeah.
wise.
Just so everybody that's listening knows, when he says really good, that means if your aspirations are to be a drug dealer, he's
Success.
in
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, definitely.
he's not doing really good in the eyes of
No, I'm
probably
saying I was doing really
anybody
good as a
healthy.
drug dealer. I was making good money, but I was
Yeah,
being bad. I wasn't productive in society. I
gotcha,
was a
gotcha.
scumbag.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
was poisoning people's
I,
lives. Trust me.
for sure. Yeah, no, I pick up on what you're putting down, man.
Yeah, I'm not trying to boast.
It,
I'm not trying to boast on being a drug dealer. I promise you, bro.
but you know, it's being a person that I share maybe not the same story, but I'm familiar with these scenarios, and I would be lying. I would be straight up lying to everybody if I didn't say that there wasn't moments that I thoroughly enjoyed myself doing awful fucking things. It's just it's what gets you. It's a lot of times, like how I started. It wasn't maybe as maybe as dark or as bleak, but it was as simple as I had a couple of beers. It was this I was like 12 years old. I had a couple of beers, maybe I was 13. But I started talking to girls. I had enough confidence
Yeah,
to say hi to girls. And I was like, this is amazing. So I
yeah,
had all the upside. I had none of the downside because I was so young. It's not as if I had like a hangover or anything. I wasn't feeling any repercussions. And I was like, I'm going to do this all the time. And so, anyways, there's these moments. So it seems like, Jimmy, what you're saying is like, all right, at that time in your life, you were unstoppable. You were on top of the world, and there wasn't anybody that was living better than Jimmy, right? Like you're like, I'm killing it.
yeah. I think a lot of it had to do with my childhood, man. Like, I was very neglected as a kid. We were left in the apartment with no electric and no water. And in the middle of the winter, me and my son had my and my brother lit candles to keep the bathroom warm, like shit like that bad, you know. So, like, yeah, dude, if
Yeah,
I'm living with a couple women and they're gorgeous and I'm making some money, absolutely, dude. I was 21 years old. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I was
yeah,
proud of myself at that point in time because it
yeah.
was a lifestyle that I never dreamed I could have, and it was given to me.
And you take a 21-year-old guy, and I would say this probably speaks for a lot of young men. It's like you ask any of them, you want to go live with these strippers and make money, but what you got to do is you got to sell drugs, and you're probably going to do drugs. There's a lot of people that would just be like, "Oh, sign me up!" Like, so all right, so you're in West Palm Beach, man, and now, so how long does this go on for? You're 21 years old.
All right.
Um,
So I didn't last long in Florida, dog, about 8, 9 months, right? And I was wore out.
okay,
I was wore out. And I called my friend, Matt Russo, that he was my close friend that I met later on. And his dad had a corporate transfer when we were freshmen in high school and they moved to Belpre, Ohio. So I called him up. I was like, listen, I hadn't seen him for like 5 years. I was like, Matt, I said, I need a break. I had about 18 grand in cash. I had about 600 e-pills, and I was like, "Can I come see you?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." He was like, "Cool." And I was like, "Well, have a party, dog. So like when I get there, you can introduce me to your friends or whatever." So he picked me up at the Columbus airport, and we went to where he had a get together, and I gave everybody e-pills. It was like all their first times, and it was a great time. And now when I was in Florida, I hooked up with a lot of like upper class women because I had access to like nightclubs and VIP because I had ecstasy and stuff. So I hooked up with a lot of gorgeous women. But when I seen my wife for the first time, she was like this cute little petite country girl. She had a Bud Light in both hands, right? And I just fell in love with her instantly. And you know how like ecstasy magnifies your feelings? You're like, oh my God, I feel so good. So like I was real shy with her for some reason. And I remember that night she was like, I don't even know why I'm getting into this. You can cut it out if you want. But she was like, can I kiss you? Right. And I was like, well, yeah. So she
Yeah.
kisses me, right? And then when we got done kissing, I said, what are you doing for the rest of your life? Now, mind you, I was 21 years old when that happened. I'm 44 now. We're still together and we have 3 kids.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, wait, that was a big jump, but I'm really happy to hear that,
Yeah.
right? Because that speaks volumes to that bond, right? That bond, it's a legitimate bond.
Yeah.
Granted, it started with 2 Bud Lights and a bunch of ecstasy, but God willing, like, you managed to navigate a tough life, and man, well, congratulations on that. I mean, that's pretty badass. So now, I'm still waiting, man. When was the dark moment? I want to hear rock bottom. It's like either do something or it's done. You know what I
All
mean?
right. So, Ryan, I can't sit here and tell you, bro, because I've had a lot of rock bottoms and none of them never meant shit to me because doing drugs always trumped all of them. Okay. I've been to
Yeah.
prison
Yep.
twice. I've been on probation, parole. I seen my 3-year-old son when he got ran over by an SUV.
Oh,
I watched him crushed by 2 tires, broke his collarbone, fractured his skull. He had 2 collapsed lungs, a broken hip bone, a broken femur bone. And like when I picked him up, he had blood coming out of his mouth, and he was like, he seen me crying. I was looking up, and I was like, God, please don't let my son die. And now, mind you, at that time, I didn't believe in God. And he
mhm.
looked at me with blood coming out of his mouth, and he said, Dad, it's going to be okay. I'm a Power Ranger. I lost my shit, bro. That was the first time I cried as as long as I could remember. Like my son is dying in my arms, and he says, Dad, it's going to be okay because I'm a Power Ranger. Like, come on, dude. He's 3 years old, bro. He was like a little superhero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was fire. But you like, let me tell you how much of a scumbag I was with my addiction, Ryan. He's in surgery. He got life flighted to Charleston Hospital. He's in surgery. And I was in drug court at the time, and I was sober when that happened. Okay. The only thing that I could think about when when he was getting his lungs blown back up was getting high. So I went to the closest gas station while he was in surgery, and I waited for the first person that looked like a drug dealer or a drug addict. And I went up to him and I told him my situation, and he was like, "Yo, come on, I got you." So he took me back to his house, and I never did methamphetamines before. I've done cocaine, crack, and everything. I've never done meth before. And he showed me this big bag of meth, and he told me the price for it. And I just couldn't believe it. So I bought it all like a dummy. And then, long story short, I got a hold of a couple people and asked them how much you get for it, and then the price thing. So then I got back into selling drugs again. So my son's tragedy, while I was in drug court
Yeah.
for a felony I just got out of prison on, got me back into getting high because I've never sold drugs and not done the drugs that I've had. I've always got high on my own supply. Always.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Even though I always
So
made a lot of money at it, it was always because I always got it for a cheap price and I had clientele that couldn't get it for what I could get it for. So I could get high for free.
yeah, I know, man. When you have an addict's mind, you can use any circumstance to you can flip any kind of situation into being like, oh well, of course I had to start dealing drugs. My son was in surgery and all this stuff. It's always the answer, right? Your mind's always trying to figure out a way to I guess,
Bro, I can
legitimize.
justify anything. I can justify anything in active
Yeah.
addiction, anytime and all the
Hmm.
time.
Yep.
All right. So like
Exactly.
my rock bottom would have came um last November. Okay, I was sitting in quality of life at Mount Olive Correctional Institute, and quality of life for the listeners is administrative segregation for a year and a half. I was in the regional jail, and I was a trustee for 5 months. And a guy that I knew off the streets ended up getting put on my pod, the trustee pod, and he got put in laundry, and I was the laundry supervisor. We were out back unloading some beds into a Connex trailer, and then on the way back in, we walked in between the transport vans, and he found a ball of foil that I guess another inmate brought in, but got scared to bring it in so it didn't get caught on the scanners. We brought it into the back laundry room, and he opened it up, and there was 5 grams of purple fentanyl in it, at least 5 grams. And at the time, I was at a point in my life to where I just didn't want to do drugs no more. And fentanyl really scared me, especially because I had that much sobriety and clean time. And I knew if I did a little bit, I could possibly overdose. You know, I was always scared that I was going to die because I've overdosed before, and it scared me. So anyway, he tastes a little bit, and I'm like, dude, just be careful with it. Do what you got to do. I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm not trying to make no money. I'm not trying to poison nobody. So I went to the change out room. Like 15 minutes later, a couple guys come up to me, a couple of my workers. They're like, Jimmy, Derek's behind the washer, and he's like, he's messed up. So when I get there, he's blue, no oxygen, no pulse, right? So I give him. First thing I do is I see the ball of drugs in his hand. I run from behind the washer. I bring it to the drain, and I wash it down with the hose down into the ground, and I leave the foil on the ground. I run back to Derek, and I start giving him CPR. I tell the guys to go get the nurses. It took them about 5 minutes to get there with Narcan. And then when the nurses got there, they ripped me off of him. They're like, you're not allowed to do that. I'm like, listen, this dude's my friend. He was dying. I wasn't going to leave him here because he wasn't breathing. And because me breathing him into his mouth and pumping on his chest, it gave his brain the oxygen he needed for that long before they got there to hit him with Narcan to absolutely save his life. Make a long story short, I got 2 class 1 drugs and toxins right up. One for administering CPR and not notifying staff myself. And then my second class 1 drugs and toxin was for disposing of drugs and not turning it in. I said, so let me ask you this. I asked them at the meeting when I went in front of the board. I said, if I would have turned those drugs in, they would have called me a rat. And then if I would have left my boy, and like it took you 5 minutes to get to him, he would have died. So I don't regret what I did. Okay, so they threw me in the hole for 60 days. Then I got shipped out to Mount Olive. And when my 60 days were up at classification, they gave me quality of life, which is 18 months. Okay. So you're in the hole for 24 hours a day for a year and a half. Now,
good God, man.
I was
Wait, this is November. This is last November.
Yeah. Well, this is
right?
what happened. You said you wanted to hear my life changing thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
The only time you get rec time is between 2 and 3 a.m. and it was the middle of the winter. It was freezing out. And I'm not calling my family at 2 or 3 a.m. And I was supposed to have a tablet to be able to call my son and my wife. But they were behind, so I didn't get a tablet. I was in there long enough to where I could order commissary and I could get a tablet, but I couldn't get a tablet. And I really miss my son, man. Now, mind you, I told you, I wasn't a spiritual person. I was more about science. I didn't believe in God. So I talked to the dude in the cell next to me. I'm like, yo, can I use your tablet, man? I miss my son. I really want to call him. I hadn't talked to him in about 3.5 months. And I get on the tablet. Now, I'm very good at manipulating my kids when I'm in jail. And they call me and they're like, Dad, what are you going to do? And I tell them what they want to hear, what they need to hear to make them feel better. I won't tell them the truth. I won't say, hey, I'm obsessing so bad over drugs right now and putting a needle in my arm that I want to kill myself because I want to get high so bad. I'm not going to tell my kids that. What I will tell them is that this time is different. I'm going to. All right. So in the book I was reading, it was called Purgatory Road. If you guys ever want to pick it up, I'm pretty sure it's Christian based, right? So there's a good man, he lives in a camper or something. He's in the desert, and then there's a guy that represents evil, and he's in the valley, right? And towards the end of the book, right, the guy in the valley creates this hellacious storm, and I believe it was like to wipe out mankind. And as I stand up and I read that, right, you got the yard, and the window is like about 6 feet long and about 5 inches high in my cell. And I look out the window and there's this crazy ass storm. Like the rain is so thick, it looks like it's snow. The trees are blowing, and I can hear the rain hitting the glass. So there's a storm in the book, and then there's a crazy storm outside. And I'm like, all right, God, you got my attention, right? So as I get to the end of the book, now the whole time I'm reading the end of this book, I'm looking outside, right? And as I get to the end of the book, the guy, the good guy, he goes and he clears the storm. And it's sure enough, as that storm clears in my book, the rain stops, the wind stops blowing, and the clouds open up and I can see the moon. So I cried because it was God reaching me, right? And I felt like he was waiting my whole life for this moment, because he knew internally in my soul, when my son said that to me, that I was like, all right, you know what? I'm tired of obsessing over drugs. Like my mind was so sick. You know how they say it's an allergy and a spiritual malady and all that in AA, and they say that the phenomenon of craving kicks in and it's overwhelming. Well, I didn't even need to get high and I would have the phenomenon of craving. Like I would drool over thinking about doing a shot of meth. That's how bad I was. I
Yeah.
was sick. So after the book is over or whatever, like I'm like, all right, God, I know you're real because there's no way this was a coincidence. I asked you for proof and you showed me proof within the same day. So the next
Yeah.
day, now mind you, I got denied a parole a month before that because I didn't have my classes done. And you can't do your classes when you're in the quality of life because you can't leave your cell. So I'm holding on to my sink and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm trying to give myself positive affirmations, trying to like burn time. And I'm like, Jimmy, you're going to be a good man. You're going to be a good father. You can do good. And then Sergeant Jackson comes up to my door and he's like, Kilkenny, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, I'm trying to be a better man, dude. Like, I'm trying to give myself positive affirmations. And he was like, well, you got a conditional release, so you need to figure out your home plan. And he slid my conditional release under the door. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like
Really?
yeah, I'm getting out of prison now. Like, how does that even happen? So I get access to a phone. I call my wife. I said, babe, I'm getting out of prison. She was like, what are you talking about? You still had like a year and something left. You got denied parole. And then I get this conditional release. It was based on my charges. Like, because I was in there for third offense driving on a revoked DUI. You get a conditional release. And I found out later that you don't even qualify when you're in quality of life for any type of release except for discharge. So that's why my parole got denied, and I should have never got a conditional release. So the prison system don't fuck up releases, but God can make it happen. And that's what made it
Yeah.
happen,
All right.
right? So that was the
Well,
next
shit.
day. That was the next day, Ryan. So with me, dog, like I get out of prison 2 weeks later and I'm fucking gone. Here I come recovery. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to change some lives. You know what I mean? Like, and it's been phenomenal. I got a job in recovery. Like me and my wife are doing great, man. My son and my daughter graduates college with a bachelor's in psychology and criminal justice in May.
What?
Yeah,
Oh
dude.
man.
And I don't even know where she came from, bro, because I moved her to like 30 different schools all over the country by the time she was 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're seeing maybe maybe you're seeing in your kids because I feel like I've heard this before, right? It's there's two sons, they're twins. One is uber successful, runs a business, all this stuff. The other one is an alcoholic. His life's a shambles. He's in a horrible relationship. They go to the same two sons, and they ask them. They say, yeah, they go to the son who's an alcoholic and struggling. He say, hey man, well, what happened to you? Why are you like this? And he says, well, my dad was an alcoholic, and my dad would come home and drink he would do drugs and he would spend all the family's money. And they asked the same question to this super successful son. He says the same thing. He says it's because my dad was an alcoholic. And so the point is that when you frame things, you can take the same circumstances, and with the right framing or the right approach, you can turn any downfall. And so my point about you is that your children, they looked at you and they looked at something to run away from. And I think, I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm thinking that you would be all right with that. You would be all right with them using you as the bad example. Like,
Oh,
I don't want to be like
absolutely.
my dad was.
Blame it all on me. I don't care, and I'll take ownership for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. There, I mean,
that's
because
amazing.
I was a scumbag, dude. And you know what? All the turmoil, drug court, probation, parole, bond, all of it, none of it ever mattered. If I could have the opportunity of getting the release from doing a shot of heroin or meth, and I knew
Yeah,
the next day I was getting a drug test and going back to jail, I would still do it just for that release for a half hour or hour. That was it.
yeah.
Yeah. I never
That's
cared.
tough.
Losing my kids, losing custody, like none of it ever mattered to me, Brian, because I was so selfish and self centered. All I cared about was drugs. And a lot of people will say I would never trade my worst day sober for my best day high. Not me, buddy, because I had some good times getting high. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well, I can't.
I hear you,
I'm not
brother.
gonna sit here and lie or sugarcoat or make anything up, bro. I had some good ass times getting high. You know what? And I won't change my past. Like, yeah, I kind of regret a few things. Like I made a lot of bad decisions. Like with my personality, I could have done a lot of good things in life. But I'm gonna start now. I'm gonna start doing some shit now. Believe that.
Well, Well, so that's a beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful segue into what I'd really like to know about next, and then that's what you've got next, right? The whole point of this show is to find out, where you're headed. So like you've gathered these lessons, right? That clearly you've taken, you've learned the lessons, right? Because you are better. So what's happening next, man? What do you got on the horizon?
Well, I think like I had a lot of ego and pride when it came to the steps. I did drugs with a lot of heavy hitters, and they found Jesus and God through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm more of an addict. I mean, I drank, but I'm an alcoholic too. But I can't really look back and say, yeah, I had problems with alcohol because I drank when I drank here and drank there, but it was never like, you know. But I identify with Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps, and this time I was like, I'm going to give it a try. And I was at a hard, long-term inpatient facility, like with Jared, the guy that introduced you to me. It was called
Yeah.
Recovery Point, and I was there for 11 months, and they drilled the big book in you every day, 8, 9 hours a day. And out of doing the step work with my sponsor, I got more out of that big book in 3 weeks than I did the whole 11 months because I was open-minded and willing.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
God's
Yeah.
God's in my life. People all the time are like, "Hey, will you give your lead at my meeting? Will you give?" So like right now, my I'm on fire in recovery, right? So I'm running with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
"Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Ride the wave.
it's a pink cloud." So whatever. So what? I'm cool with that right now because I'm fucking loving it. I'm getting high from helping people out. Um,
Yeah.
like I said, I work in recovery, and like I can get to these kids or these people here, like they'll come to me shattered, and like they'll share some shit, and I can relate to them, and then like I can see in their eyes like a complete psychic change, like holy shit, dude, what you just said resonated with me, and to me that is so rewarding, dude. If you can talk to somebody that's an alcoholic or an addict like you are, and you can give them experience, strength, and hope of some of your trauma or just some of your tribulations you went through in life and what you've done and what your success is now to turn that around, and fuck, dude, do it. Right? Because
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
getting something from it too, right? I'm getting rewarded. God God puts something in me every time I work with another addict or alcoholic. And that spiritual uplifting that I get and the happiness and the motivation, the determination, the drive, the inspiration to want to keep doing it and doing it, it's definitely a high that I've never got before. It's a different high, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a junkie and I like being high, so this is my new high,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna run with it.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I've been kind of saying this. I've been saying it to a lot of people. Um, that like curing the addict's character really isn't it, and a different way of looking at addicts in general, right? You think of an addict, and I actually just had this conversation with a person who's running a rehab house, um, and in their in their words, it was addicts are just plain bad. And I'm like, wait, are they? Are they? Because like let's consider this. I've been saying this a lot, man. So it's like was Steve Jobs addicted to innovation? I could say, yeah, he
Yeah,
probably was. I mean, it was probably people looking at him like, hey man, that's too much.
yeah,
You've got to chill out, man. You've got to like, hey, how about you put that down and go, call your mom, whatever.
yeah,
Like there's all kinds of people that are making was Gandhi addicted to peace? Was he addicted to pacifism? And it's like, you know, there might be a case for these kinds of situations. So I think a good remedy, a good point is like you're an addict, so why don't we just like an effective weapon, man? You're locked and loaded. Point it in the right direction and let it rip.
yeah,
And so just like go with it, man. And
yeah,
so I do really like how that you're pumped, man, and you're riding high on that.
yeah.
And so you're working at which facility? Are
Carmen
you
Rig
working at?
Recovery Center.
Gotcha, 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 gotcha.
It's in Walker, West
Yeah, man.
Virginia.
I think that's man, that's a blessing that you've found a home and a place that makes a difference. And so, man, I love the fact that you've turned all this around. And I gotta say, brother, like when you started telling me this, when you started your story, it's like, damn, like the fact that I'm looking at you right here. Even though like you keep freezing up a little bit once in a
Yeah,
while,
yeah.
like
And you are too.
it's amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing. Like that's it's an unreal tale. And let me tell you, um, uh, you should write a book, man. I'm saying that.
I don't have the mental capacity for that, Ryan. I can talk, right? But when it comes, I don't have it, dude. Like, I've heard people tell me that before, like, but I just can't do it, man. I want to tell you something
Hey,
real quick. Like, by no
yeah,
means at any point in time in my life has my trauma affected my decisions, okay? I did drugs and got high because I liked the way they made me feel. I wasn't a
yep,
self medicator. And you know what? People do drugs to self medicate, and that's okay because if you do drugs and you do drugs, you're fucked up one way or another because you're poisoning your body, right? You're destroying your
yeah.
soul. You're blocking yourself off from God, right? Like, but my trauma didn't affect my drug use. I did drugs because I liked the way they made me feel. That was it.
Is it? And that's that right there is important because I have this phrase that I say. It's like the biggest victim in the room is the last one to get better. So if it's outside of you, if it's your parents or your history or your childhood and all this stuff, like yeah, that's probably got a real big part of why you're like this. However, the longer it stays, like as long as that power stays with your history and your traumas, you're not making any progress,
No.
right? So like the sooner that you say exactly what you said, you
Yeah.
just said it. You said, I like to get high and I did it,
Yeah.
and I would always say like, you know, uh the pills, the alcohol, there's not a single person that poured a drink or any booze into my mouth but me.
Yep.
Nobody ever walked up and said, "Oh, let me get that for you," or like, "Oh, let me stick this pill in your nose." Like, no, 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 no. I crushed them up. I inhaled. I
Right.
got them into my nose like, every time.
Yeah.
So, and that was always a blessing. I think that it's a blessing that we have that mentality because without it, I don't think either one of us would be sitting here, man.
No.
I think that that's the truth.
No. And my mom always
So,
has. My mom always feels bad. She's like, my mom. I'm like,
uh,
Mom, stop. I love you to death. You turned your life around. She got saved
oh,
when I was
wow,
young,
okay,
and she did a 180. She quit smoking cigarettes. She quit doing drugs. She went and got her GED, and then got a college degree. And like
damn,
my mom turned from a prostitute, meth cook, junkie, whore
yeah.
into a Christian saved, Jesus loving, church going, great woman role model to me. Like, so I'm like, Mom, my childhood has nothing, my drug use has nothing to do with my childhood. I
Got it.
don't, it just don't. Like, I don't blame any of it on you. I'm a big boy. I started doing drugs at a young age and I liked them. So I didn't have to do cocaine when I was 9. Nobody
Yeah,
forced me to do
yeah,
that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I was going
yeah.
through some shit, but that shouldn't be the excuse that I did it. You know what I mean? There's never an excuse to get high. So if there's like when people listening to this, right, and they feel like self pity and stuff like that, like listen, take this how you want it. Take it with a grain of salt. Woman or man the fuck up and get a hold of your life. Find God and get your shit together. Because when you find God, life gets great. That's it. That's
And
just it.
that's a perfect way to end, brother. I love it, man. I love it, brother. And dude, I greatly appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, bro.
It's been a hell of a journey, I'll tell you that,
Yeah.
man. So
Shoot, you didn't even
yeah.
get a quarter of my shit, buddy. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, then we're gonna have to run it back. We're gonna have to run it back. We'll do it again. Volume 2. But
Sounds good.
yeah, our time up is here, my friend. And so this has been the next fix. And until next time, you guys hang tight, stay sober.
Yeah, go get it.